Okay, so Jon VII from A Storm of Swords. Great. A bit of action here, huh? So, last time we saw our friend Jon Snow, he had just reached the mole town and warned the populace to evacuate. The latter having taken him seriously, presumably, without even questioning the fact that he was dressed like a wildling, which should have raised some eyebrows, some questions. Both whether or not Jon was recognized by the Moletowners, Moltonians. Later on, we'll encounter the word. Actually, it's moles. So the inhabitants of Mole's Town. Anyway, so once at Castle Black, he learned from the armorer Donal Noy that the scout Jarman Buckwell and his men had spotted Mance Raider's army coming south. So apparently the modus operandi, whatever, of these wildlings was to keep mounting false attacks all along the wall. And the Castellan of Castle Black, Bowen Marsh, having taken the bait, now groups of black brothers have been dispersed all along the wall to counter these fake attacks. Plus, Jon also learned that Elsie Mormont lost his life at Craster's Keep, and that only 12 men made it back from Craster's Keep, including, Giant, Gren, Dywyn, Sweet Donal Hill, and Dolorous Ed, and also that Winterfell has been burned to the ground, and that Bran and Rickon Stark are dead at the hands of Theon Greyjoy. Ooh, what a day, huh? Oh, I think I need a drink. Must have thought Jon. And a drink he did need because he was also wounded. So, yeah. Bit of the old dream wine or whatever. Milk of the old poppy. And Jon remembers seeing a grey direwolf at Queen's Crown, actually. Which we know was indeed Summer. Bran's wolf. So now there he is, Jon doing his thing. Okay, but where are my manners? Welcome, dear listener, to the incoherent ramblings of an insane person online, me. We're reading A Song of Ice and Fire, one chapter at a time, and right now we're about to sink our teeth into Jon VII from A Storm of Swords, or Jon VII, or indeed Jon VII. Ah, but surely, I hear you ask, wasn't Jon VII also a pope? Ah, well, I'm glad you asked, because you see, Jon VII was indeed pope in Rome from March, I've got it here, 705 to the 18th of October, 707, Anno Domini. You will be pleased to know that, being an ethnic Greek, he was one of the few Byzantine popes. And speaking of Byzantines, 7 centuries later, there was also a Byzantine emperor, John VII, sitting on the throne of Constantinople. How about that, huh? Yeah, don't you feel more educated all of a sudden? Okay, but really, with the history corner dealt with, let's move on to our Jon, shall we? Okay, so quick note before I forget. According to that spreadsheet you can find online titled Most Precise ASOIAF, I'm always dislocating my jaw every time I go through that acronym. I don't know why. The most precise Storm of Ice and Fire timeline in existence. Main project manager here being a person who goes under the nickname of Private Major, but apparently a certain Feldman 10 contributed, who I assume is Adam Feldman, author of those essays on the Pyrenees blot. So my gratitude goes to these people. Be it as it may, where was I? So according to that Ice and Fire timeline, no more than a day might have passed between the previous Jon chapter, previous point of view, POV chapter, and this one, which means that the chapter we're reading now does take place shortly after the Red Wedding, but before news thereof news of the Red Wedding, reached King's Landing and Dragonstone, meaning that the deeds and actions narrated in the previous 2 chapters, Tyrion 6 and Davos 5, have yet to take place at this point in time, this point in the book. We've basically traveled back in time for a bit, short distance in time. All right, so the first thing we see through Jon's eyes is Molestown burning. Stir's doing, we learn, the Then Magnar, Jon, who Jon scaled, okay, let's start the sentence again. The Then Magnar Jon scaled the wall with, Stir. That's him. He's the guy who set the town on fire, and Jon was with him the whole time until he managed to break free from the free folk. Breaking free from the free folk. Interesting concept. Anyway, so Jon is glad that Stir has lit this massive neon sign, heralding the arrival of his small army from south, and Jon is watching the whole thing from the top of a King's Tower, when in fact he should he should be nursing his wound, he should be in bed. Instead, he's there, leaning on a crutch, borrowed from a maester. But he's glad because at least now that everyone at Castle Black knows what to expect, at least, the Night's Watch guys won't be in danger of being murdered in their sleep. They're all on guard, Except Jon's wound is far from healed, but he's trying to pretend there's nothing wrong with him because he realizes that the Watch needs every man they can get for this upcoming battle. But the armorer, Donald Noy, wasn't buying any of that. He went, all right, if your leg isn't playing you up, yeah, why don't I put it to the test? Yeah? Does it hurt when I do that? No, let's not do that. Yeah, and here we get a reprise of that famous joke, sticking with the... Not doctor, does it hurt when... it hurts when I do that. No, that's not... It's a different joke. It's sticking with a pointy end, or stab the pointy end into your opponent, These are the instructions on how to use blades in Westeros. Blades and indeed arrows, lances, spears, etc. Which is what Jon once said to Arya, you'll remember, when giving her the tiny sword, needle, way back in Book 1, A Game of Thrones. And now, in this flashback, Donald Noy was using the same joke with Jon. He's going, yeah, well, tell you what, yeah, I do need every man I can get, yeah? Of course I do. Any man who remembers it's the pointy end you need to stab into the enemy is welcome to grab a spear and a long sword, whatever, a long spear, crossbow, and fight. But you, dude, you belong in a clinic. Look at you, mate. I suppose I could put you on top of a tower, yeah? I'll put you on top of a tower with a long bow and see what you can do. See how your performance... if your performance will be up to the standards we require for this particular effort. But you know what? Don't come crying to me, if you fall off. All right. So that's so there he is. Okay, that's a long flashback, and now there he is on top of the King's Tower, from whence he can observe the King's Road, appropriately King's Tower, King's Road. Before the day is over, he's thinking Stir and company will be attacking from that road, from the King's Road, and he knows the entire team actually. Stir, Grig the goat. He's got there's Quart, Big Boyle, whom I don't remember particularly well, a whole bunch of other guys, and Ygritte. Imagine having to fight her. There's bad breakups and bad breakups, and then there's this, because she's left a wound on his thigh to remember her by, a wound on his thigh to remember her by. I keep thinking there could be a musical made of A Storm of Swords, the musical. Yeah, because we didn't... Were we actually explicitly told that the arrow that was fired at Jon, which causes his wound, was fired by Ygritte? Were we actually explicitly told, or is just Jon that's thinking, yeah, the more I think about it, the more it must have been her? He's now convinced that arrow was fired by Ygritte. I don't know if it's ever actually explained in the text. But he's thinking, yeah, if Ygritte does come this way, he'll have to give her far worse than a thigh wound, you know, considering that he's in the position of having to give it 110%, you know, if he wants to prove his loyalty to the Watch, after spending so many months with the wildlings, you know, doing his Donnie Brasco thing, the insider. Yeah, that's right. This is the chapter where they use bowmen. Oh yeah, made of straw. Sorry, I'm jumping from one topic to the next, but this chapter is a veritable roller coaster. Well, so bowmen made of straw. Yeah, I remember the scarecrows. You know, I remember the scarecrow sentinels. Why? Because they're so few. You know, the watchmen, that, well, somehow they had time to stuff. You know, they took these. They figured these scarecrows would intimidate attackers from seen from afar. Because basically, you know, whether they grabbed a whole bunch of black crow uniforms, stuffed them with straw to resemble actual men of the Night's Watch, and seen from the King's Road, you know, if one doesn't look too closely, they look like actual bowmen. So now sharing is Jon is sharing the rooftop with no fewer than 6 of these scarecrows. So that, I guess, that's the ratio, you know, 3 scarecrows for every actual man of the Watch, and because it is actually not 2, because he's sharing because there's 2 other guys with the 2 other living and breathing guys with him. There's up there on the King's Tower. 2 guys. There's Jon, and then these 2 other guys. One of them is called Deaf Dick Follard. We're meeting him here for the first time. Don't rush to look back. Oh, is he famous for something? He's deaf. That's all we know about him. And he's from House Follard. And then there's, as well as, a boy from Old Town named Satin. A name he's had all his life, kind of like a stage name, you know. A nom de plume. He used in the brothel where he grew up. Here, let me read you the description. He was pretty as a girl, with his dark eyes, soft skin, and raven's ringlets. Half a year at Castle Black. Okay, he's been there for 6 months. Interesting. Half a year at Castle Black, had toughened up his hands, however, and Noy said he was passable with a crossbow. Now, why am I focusing on this Satin all of a sudden? Because this is a great example of how George R.R. Martin reintroduces characters that he'd actually just sprinkled on a page of a previous book, thinking that at some point he would need them, you know? Because have we met this Satin before? Oh, well, I will have you know that we have indeed. And it's easy to pick on reread, but here he goes. From Jon 1, A Clash of Kings, Jon and Donal Noy are observing a bunch of new recruits in training, and Jon asks Donal where they've been found, these new recruits, and to which Mr. Noy replies, a lord's dungeon near Gulltown. A brigand, a barber, a beggar, 2 orphans, and a boy whore, he says. That his words, not mine. With such do we defend the realms of men. See? No name, no nothing, just a quick mention, and then the character is fleshed out a whole book later. And then on reread, you realize that these characters didn't just spring out out of nothing. But they've been there all along. We'll see this technique used time and again. A certain Taina of Mir, also known as Taina Merryweather, springs to mind. We haven't encountered her yet, but it was again mentioned as one of the extras, and then the extras take center stage in a later book. It happens, it happens a lot. Anyway, here Jon can't help wishing there was a wall to the south side of Castle Black, except that no, it's policy. And that's the point, that the Night's Watch castles should pose no threat to the Seven Kingdoms in the south. Not only that, but they should have nothing to hide, southwards, to make it painfully clear that they are not a weapon to be used against any of the kingdoms south of the wall, but exclusively north. And then there's a whole history given of instances where, you see, that was a good policy. Yeah. I'm not going to go through it, but sometimes there are episodes of, commanders of castles that went to war with each other, and the commander of castle, of the wall, their Uber commander was murdered by both of them. It's a fuzzy history anyway, because as we'll later find out, Samuel Tarly goes through the books and realizes that according to one account, there's been this number of Lord Commanders, and which is at odds, does not match the number of Lord Commanders in a different account. So, okay. Anyway, so be it as it may, the strategy now is to barricade the gate, the gate dug into the wall, the gate to the north, to barricade it with whatever they have, like casks of nails and barrels of salt mutton, crates, bales of black broadcloth, stacked logs, sawn timbers, fire-hardened stakes, and sacks of grain. Once again, this, you can see how this could be like a perfect sort of choir type thing in a musical, which I'm not going to sing all these items. This list of items, I will spare you that. The whole lot, all these items, they're sort of piled up, kind of like an arch, if I understand this correctly. Kind of like an arch, which is also protecting the bottom of the stairs, leading all the way to the top of the wall, which you can take if you're comfortable with heights. I don't know whether I would trust those stairs, because they're actually using the creaky winding staircase right now to allow the last few residents of Molestown, those who sought refuge in a Castle Black, they're using the stairs to usher the last few residents of Molestown to safety up on top of the wall. In some cases, they're actually carrying them, like small children, frail elderly, senior citizens and whatnot. Of course, there's also the elevator option, which is still powered by, human muscles. This is a humongous, what do you call it, gear, cog, at the very top of, and ropes. It still sounds a bit dodgy, If you ask me, kind of like those attractions they have in China that you see on social media, the bridge made of transparent plexiglass. How many people have thrown up on the overhung 700 feet over a forest? That hand statue thing that you're supposed to climb, Buddha's hand. You climb it and then you throw up your guts once you're on top. You know what I'm talking about. All those attractions, the free climbing, and there's a bit where you stare into the abyss and walking on a plank that's a couple of inches wide for no reason. All those attractions that make you wonder how are they even legal? China. how did you make those things legal? Well, I guess, there are some people who really enjoy that kind of stuff. I do not. Anyway, those are the villagers, committed, desperately making it to the top of the wall. Those are the villagers, I guess, who heeded Jon's warning and fled Molestown. But others stayed behind, and who knows what happened to them, huh? Jon, of course, would prefer to take the attack to the wildlings, face them in the open field, dodgy leg or no dodgy leg, who cares? Hey, but bringing the attack out there on the King's Road would require at least 50 men, and there aren't 50 men at Castle Black to rub together. And if you had 50 men, why would you want to rub them together? The garrison that went out with Bow and Marsh hasn't returned. So yeah, that's why they haven't got 50 men. The garrison is them. Whoever happens to be at Castle Black right now, yeah, that's the garrison. Those guys and the scarecrows. So the guys Bow and Marsh has left behind aren't exactly the elite fighters of the Watch, In the words of Donald Noy, and I quote, "Old men, cripples and green boys." Some of them are there, doing various chores, and every now and then they look up and wave at him. "Oh, hello, Jon. Hi." And but for every brother of the Watch who's happy to see Jon back at Castle Black, there's at least another one who hates his guts, because of the whole turncloak thing. He's been living, eating, drinking, and sleeping with wildlings. Why would I consider him a sworn brother anymore? I don't like that guy. But this will be a notion, to put a pin on, for future reference. There is still, just remember this, there is still some resentment vis-a-vis Monsieur Jon Snow. Jean La Neige. There. I'm feeling all Frenchy right now. Meanwhile, Donald Noy is coordinating the works, and everything seems to be, placed in a specific location for a purpose. The pitch goes to the hoist. The oil up the steps, crossbow bolts to the 4th, 5th, and 6th landings. Spears to 1st and 2nd. He's very OCD, but very well organized, Mr. Noy. The lard, the lard, very important. That goes under the stairs. The cask of meat for the barricade. Yeah, okay, right. That's just the way I like it. He's just looking at things from afar, Donald, and drawing squares in the air. We're going to have that. Have you noticed, every time you got someone talking to an interior decorator, every time there's that kind of dialogue, those people are always drawing squares in the air. Yeah, and that's where we'll have the thing, and that other thing goes over there. Yeah. Oh, it's gonna be awesome. So, but Noy is nowhere near as discreet as that. He's shouting all those orders. Put the lard over there. He's a great choice for an interim, commander, because he's got a loud, booming voice. Here, Jon remembers something Ned Stark once told him about the qualities of a great commander. A great commander must have a loud, booming voice. How many times do I have to tell you, Jon? Let me hear your loud, booming voice. And to be sure, Donald has also enlisted some of the mole towners, just moles. Okay, let's start calling them moles. I think that's the correct nomenclature. That's how they want to be called. And he's enlisted some of the moles, those who are still fit enough to fight. And for now, they're stewards. They're lifting stuff and crates and things. And he's given them big double-bladed axes, razor-sharp daggers, long swords, maces, spiked morning stars, you name it. Yeah, weapons. They've got loads of weapons. It's people to handle them, to yield them, that they seem to lack. And there's even a couple of brothel workers, you know, two women who I think are named later on. I don't remember. We'll see. We'll see. If they are named, we'll find it. You know, we're going through the chapter page by page. So a couple of brothel workers. Yeah, Molestown is only famous for their brothels as far as members of the Night's Watch are concerned, because there's nothing else they want out of Molestown that they don't have back, you know, on the wall in those castles. So, you know, ale they have, food they have. What they don't have is a bit of the old... So anyway, so these two sex workers have been placed on the staircase landings, bows in hand, because apparently they have some skill with bows. I like that, you know, it gives it a kind of a Wild West movie sort of touch, doesn't it? You can totally picture that. Kids too have been put to use. I mean, child labor, much. They're in the kitchen. They're busy in the kitchen, slaving around the stoves, chopping onions, stirring stews, peeling turnips in the kitchen and whatnot. Stirring kettles, actually. Yeah, that word will be important. Stirring kettles. And meanwhile, Satin... See, the chapter keeps jumping from... but there must be a reason. Jumping from one thing to the next, you know. It's not just because of the very nature of a POV chapter. Point of view chapter is we're in a person's mind, and a person's thoughts, you know, do wander. So there you go. And so Satin is complaining right now. Says, "Oh, it's too cold." Although I should point out that he's not actually wearing satin, so he's all right. It could be worse. I mean, he could be wearing satin, is what I'm saying. I don't know why I said that, but yeah, all right, bear with me. But yeah, Satin is from Old Town, which, with its geographic vicinity with the Arbor and the southern location, is used to, well, he's used to having access to quality wine, for one thing. And some pretty strong and refreshing cider, I guess, is also brewed in Old Town, as we'll soon find out in that lovely prologue for Feast for Crows. So my point is, mild climate and chilled strong drinks. That's the world Satin was accustomed to, grew up to, you know. But around here, it's all ass about face. The temperature is freezing and the drinks are substandard, to say the least. You know, Satin, before coming to Castle Black, he was thinking, no, ice belongs in dry martinis, not out there. Ice has a purpose. It's to cool drinks. What am I even doing here? I mean, what does that tell you? If even the late Lord Commander Mormont, I was talking about the substandard drinks, right? Remember, even the late Lord Commander Mormont had to add some flavor to his ale by squeezing a whole lemon in it. Yeah? Okay. It's not just because he was into Mexican beer. It's a clue, in my humble opinion, that the sort of booze the watch gets is really nothing to rave about, you know? And Satin confirms it. This is no Arbor Gold. Anyway, so this is no time to party. No time to party. There are no distractions right now. The Magner, which incidentally does sound like a brand of cider, so more booze for you. The Magner stir could attack any minute. It really sounds like something out of Mad Max, you know? Those freaks are out there. We're in here. Tension. And yet somehow the night passes uneventfully, you know? Nothing happens. They only get interrupted by a certain Owen, aka the Oaf, we imagined it was named after his surgical precision in doing things, that's how, and his sharp intellect. No, he'll gladly tell anyone, yeah, I was dropped on the head when I was a baby. Yeah, what are you going to do? But he's down there in the kitchen, he's mostly doing odd things. He's mostly odd things, helping like here and there as it might be. Award yourselves 4 points if you got the reference. I don't know why, it's usually 5, but this time it's 4. Anyway, 3 Fingers Hobbs has sent him up the tower, has sent Owen the Oaf up the tower, up the King's Tower, with some bread. Hobbs, bread. No, seriously, wasn't there a bakery in our world, not in Westeros? A bakery named Hobbs? Like or am I thinking of Hovis? Confusion. Forgot my meds today. Anyway, so bread buns, fresh from the oven, plus pine kernels, raisins, dried apples. There's all that stuff in there. Not to mention a whole wheel of cheese. It's not bad. The Sentinel had better get all the proteins, carbs, and fiber if they want to stay awake. Is what Three Fingered Hobbs figured. So that's why he sent Owen up there. Yeah, you go. Have some bread. Have some of this, some of that. And even Satin, who says thanks but no thanks, he's still thinking about Arbor wine and ice and an ice cube in it. Even Satin is encouraged to, help himself, because Jon reckons, hey, this may well be our last meal, So, yeah. Better make the most of it. And Owen lingers a bit, nervously looks around. Who? Because he's also expecting the wildlings to attack any minute, of course. In which case, he has precise instructions to follow, given to him directly from Donald Noy, is to run up the staircase to the 3rd landing and start firing arrows at the attackers. And you do get the feeling that Noy told him 3rd landing, because at least Owen can count to 3. But beyond that, it's anyone's guess. Still, he's optimistic, this Owen guy. He goes, yeah, but the king will come to our aid, won't he? With his army and everything, King Baratheon, Didn't you just say Maester Aemon sent him a bird? I mean, a message attached to a bird, not just a bird. And dear Owen, you know what? You actually make more sense than you know. There I said it, twirling my moustache. But no, I'll shut up here. No, seriously, it's crucial that I do shut up about it because of my spoiler policy, which I think I forgot to relay here. So here it comes. None. There, it can be summarized in one word. In this series, if I ever make any references to chapters other than the chapter I happen to be reading, these references will be to past chapters, not future ones. In other words, I will be looking back and not ahead. And sticking to that policy, I am authorized to say that these Baratheon brothers do indeed have a strange habit of coming back from the grave to fight battles and what have you. Just think of Renly, huh? Okay, all right, yeah, that was a close one. All right, shut up. Shut up, Salsa. Enough. Anyway, Jon, so Jon dismisses him. Yeah, sure. Yeah, Robert is coming. Yeah. Forget the fact that he's so annoyingly dead, so he can't really help us. But forget that. Yeah, which you will forget because I tell you that the Robert is dead like every single time. I mean, we meet for breakfast. Are there any cinnamon rolls? Oh, and Robert is dead. Yeah, I tell you every time. And you keep forgetting. You adorable oaf. Come here, you. Okay. But by the way, it must be weird. I was thinking, we never really focus on this little fact often enough. What fact, I hear you say? that it must be weird to be a member of the Night's Watch, knowing that one of your sworn brothers, who, for the most part, is hardened criminals picked from a dungeon, marked for execution, the really the losers of this world, and yet one of your sworn brothers who walk among you simply casually shared a roof with not one but two kings, the past and the incumbent one, for like a fortnight. This was back in book one. That person, that sworn brother being Jon, in case you missed that. Okay, I played the pronoun game. He shared a room. Who could he be? Yeah, Jon. But yes, okay, it must be weird, but then again, if one thinks about it, if one stops and think about it, the senior maester, there's two, senior maester was a potential claimant to the throne himself. Yeah. So yeah, what we have here is a star-studded, celebrity-studded Night's Watch. Yeah, isn't it? I just thought I'd put that thought out there, and now it's out there. I can't undo that. Okay, yeah. And that also helped me lose my train of thoughts. Aemon. Let's stay on Aemon for a while. Speaking of Maester Aemon and ravens, yes, the Maester, yeah, okay, because he did send a whole bunch of ravens, I know. I'm supposed to say a murder of ravens. I know, okay. I apologize to all the biologists out there. Sorry. Murder. Although it's murder of crows, but do ravens not tend to not hang out in groups? Therefore, is murder even the correct nomenclature? Boy, do I digress today. Yeah, okay, so Aemon sent several murders. Yeah, here, let me read you the quote. Okay, that will save me from digressing ad libitum. Let me read you the quote. Even as far as Old Town and the Citadel, the ravens flew, and to 100 mighty lords in their castles. That's half as 50? Wow. The northern lords offered their best hope. Okay, yeah, geographically speaking. So to them, Aemon sent 2 birds, to the Umbers and the Boltons, to Castle Kerwin and Torrent Square, Carhold and Deepwood Motte. Yeah, the Torrent Square, Deepwood Motte, those are Ironborn occupied, so good luck there. Where else? Bear Island, Old Castle, Widow's Watch, White Harbour, Barrowtown and the Rills. Yeah. Oh, and listen here, the mountain clans. The mountain clans are reintroduced here. To the mountain fastness of the Liddles, remember those? The Burleys, the Norries, the Harclays, and the Walls. The Blackbirds brought their plea. Wildlings at the gate, the north is in danger. Come with all your strength. Yeah. Aemon has got all these people on his mailing list. Which must be hell, to train and put them in separate cages and, not get them mixed up because, they all resemble each other. We've heard bits and pieces of info of how this whole procedure, is done. It ain't easy. Anyway, so the night turns into morning, the morning turns to afternoon, and still nothing. And Jon finds himself glad that there are no clouds overhead, because in his own words, rain or snow could doom them all. Which I find ironic, because it was precisely the snow that saved some of his best friends among his sworn brothers from that bloody mutiny at the Feast of the First Men, in the prologue of this same book. I mean, the snow and the whites attacking, but yeah, okay. But it was the snow primarily that thwarted, what's his name, Chet's bloody mutinous plans. Which was a mutiny that Jon was actually aware of, although he had decided not to report on what he'd heard, back in A Clash of Kings. Anyway, bygones, bygones. Meanwhile, the two maesters, Aemon and Clydas, although Clydas is just an apprentice, I think. Anyway, they're also being hoisted, up on top of the wall, along with some remaining non-combatants. Septon, is it Celador or is it Cellar Door? Cellar Door, yeah, from Donnie Darko. Anyway, or is it Kellador? It says Celtigar, Celtic. I'm giving up on these. I'm gonna call him Celador. I like Celador, so Celador. We haven't heard from him since book 1, by the way. The Septon. There's a Septon. Did you remember? There's a Septon. A Castle Black. He's usually referred to as drunken Septon Celador. Okay, just so you know. And right now he's mumbling some prayers to the warrior. Just give him strength and courage. Where's my wine? And this is just what Deaf Dick Follard needs to put him to sleep. Actually, no, because he can't hear him. But never mind. The time here is marked by the regular visits by Owen the Oaf, carried meals, because lunchtime now, before you know it, yeah, mutton and ale broth, yummy. I could do with a bit of that right now. And suddenly the sun sets again. Puff, just like that, huh? Time flies when you're having fun, huh? Time flies when you're aging, that's what I say. Anyway, so, and another chore Satin is charged with is filling a kettle with oil. I told you that word was going to be important. Now we know that's not for cooking, even though George has just used the word kettle to describe what we imagine to be like a cauldron, in Hobbs' kitchen. Kids stirring the kettles, which I think was done on purpose to plant the image in our heads. It's not just a small kettle, where you would boil some water for a cup of the old chai. No. This is a massive cauldron, and it's being filled with oil. So what's this? Yeah, it's, I'll tell you what this is. It's a great Chekhov's gun. That's what it is. And while Satin is filling the kettle, Jon is watching the sky, because remember, every time we encounter the constellation, usually in either a Bran chapter, who happens to remember the names of stars via Maester Lewin or Osha, or in a Jon chapter. That's where we encounter the names of the constellations in Westeros. So yeah, and I've been storing all those names of constellations, stars, out of curiosity. I have them right here in my copious notes. The Crone's Lantern, the Galley, the Ghost, the Ice Dragon, the King's Crown, also known as the Cradle among the free folk, the Moon Maid, the Shadow Cat, the Swan, the Sow, the Stallion, also known as the Horned Lord among the free folks, and of course the Sword of the Morning, which everyone agrees is Vesper, is it? Lucifer? Anyway, and I don't know if we have encountered all of these constellations in past chapters, because I have this list from my previous read of the series. I listed all sorts of stuff, currencies, things. Ouch, itchy. Right, so anyway, I don't know, I don't remember. But why am I all of a sudden focusing on constellations? Jon is, because Jon is scanning the sky for the Stallion, which invariably leads him to think about Ygritte again, and then Ghost. Because he called as a citizen, as a national of the Seven Kingdoms, called that constellation the Stallion, but Ygritte as a north of the Wall dweller called it the Horned Lord. So once again, everything reminds me of Ygritte. And Ghost, yeah. Where's Ghost? Because you will remember that Jon and Ghost had to part ways right before Jon scaled the wall. And at that point, the dire wolf received specific instructions from Jon to head to one of the gates of at the wall, and doesn't matter which one. Ideally, a manned one, but right now, lots of gates are being manned, if only for a few days at a time. And then get one of the sworn brothers to let him in and hopefully warn the Night's Watch of the upcoming attack. But you know what? Ghost isn't exactly, Rin Tin Tin, the adventures of Rin Tin Tin. I can hardly imagine Ghost, coming up to a brother of the Night's Watch and going, woof. And then, the Night's Watch guy goes, what's that, Ghost? Jon is about to scale the wall between Stone Door and Greyguard? Well, that's unheard of. Woof. And the Thanes, led by their leader, Stir the Magnar, is also with him? We must go. Okay, you get the picture. No, I don't see a dire wolf do that. And in fact, Jon has no idea where Ghost might be. And probably, in fact, more likely than not, when Jon gave him all those instructions, it was like one of those Gary Larson's, the Far Side pictures, what we say to dog and what dogs actually understand. It's like, okay, Wolfie, whatever. I've had it with you. You've ruined my carpet for the last time. And then what they understand is like, Wolfie, blah, 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 Wolfie, blah, blah, blah. There's no real understanding, So, yeah, but there's no time to think about all that stuff because that's when it all happens. That's right. Someone has just blown the horns. So Satting wastes no time letting us know that he's scared. And Jon is all like, yeah, so are they. So are they. Kind of like a dad, When as kids we were in the presence of, I don't know, like a feral animal or something, and dads would be like, remember, he's just as scared as you are. Which I don't know if that's useful advice, I mean, yeah, sure, scared and all, but, animals are capable of pulling all sorts of dangerous shit when they're scared, So anyway, time to start, firing some arrows, and Jon hangs a quiver from his belt and pulls an arrow. The shaft is black, the fletching grey. This will be important later. And as he gets ready to notch the arrow in the bow, he thinks of all people, Theon, and something Theon said way back. Because you will remember Theon was a formidable archer, apparently, before he murdered Jon's brothers and set his house on fire. I know he didn't really murder Bran and Rickon per se, but yeah, that's as far as Jon knows. Also, while we're on the topic of what Jon knows about Theon, just to remind ourselves, he also remembers what Gren told him about Theon in the previous chapter. Here, let me read you the quote. Bolton's son killed all the Iron Men, and it's said that he's slain Theon Greyjoy inch by inch for what he did. There. So that doesn't count as a spoiler, because that news was relayed to Jon and us, readers, in the previous Jon POV chapter. And I suspect that the last few paragraphs are there, among other things, to remind us of characters that we might be in danger of forgetting about, Ghost, Theon, etc., etc. And then Jon finally sees 3 shadows, wildlings, at a close enough distance for him to loosen his first arrow, which is 50 yards in Jon's case, Any farther than that, and it'd be a wasted arrow. See, the resources of the watch are finite, so they have to make all these calculations with weapons and ammunitions, kind of like guerrilla fighters, you know. Still, the first shot does eliminate one of those three shadows, so clap, clap. there goes clap, clap, clap. You know, that's well done there. Well done, well done. Is goes my there goes my clap, my Wimbledon clap goes to John. You know, the Wimbledon clap. It's really rapid, and you're supposed to only hit the lower part of your hand. Don't forget to smile, maybe tilt your head, have a sip of the old Pimm's and lemonade, strawberry and cream. Okay, right. Let's get back to the watch. The second arrow does miss the target, unfortunately, but John is suddenly spoiled for choice with targets, because more and more just keep popping up, and he can tell that some of them are free folk by the symbols on their round leathern shields, you know, skulls and bones, serpents, bear claws, twisted demonic faces, all random, to each his own, you know. I told you, they're kind of like a Mad Max sort of army, whereas the Thens, they wear no such nonsense on their shields. The Thens are much more like a military force. They don't value individuality as much as the free folk. It makes me think of Sparta. It's probably, you know, the Thens are Sparta in the north, in the uncharted territory, way, way, way up north, is what I think they are. And by now the attackers are getting so close that John actually recognizes most of them, like Mully, another watchman on a different tower. Mully, that's a watchman. There's a black sworn brother. He shoots down Big Boyle, who, in case you don't remember, is a wildling who has a big boil. That's all I'll say about him, okay? But what John is really hoping for is a clear shot of Styr, the Magna, the Then leader, because him he finds easier to hate. In fact, all the Thens. But he has entertained the thought before, huh? You know, these Thens with their brusque manners, and given how rudely they deal with John and Ygritte, he thought, gee, you know what? I'll tell you what, if all the wildlings were like Styr, it would be easier to betray them, as he said back in John 3. Anyway, back to this chapter. Here's another lovely quote. The world was moonlight and shadow, and time became an endless round of notch and draw and lose and repeat. Notch and draw and lose. Huh? How did you like that? This is great. Awesome writing. But it's time to say goodbye to Deaf Dick Follard. Goodbye, Dick. We hardly knew you. Because the wildlings are now setting fire to the common hall, which is not cool. No. Bad wildlings. And so, but anyway, so Dick tries to shoot down a few of those guys, and except that he misses, and it's him who gets shot and plunges down the tower without a sound, which I think adds even more to the Wild West movie kind of vibe, you know, the guy falling off the parapet. It's a parapet, yeah, okay. Up on the saloon, you know the trope. With the Wilhelm scream. How does that sound? The Wilhelm scream, you know, who has been with us for what, like 70 years now in ADR. The Wilhelm scream. You know what I'm talking about. Look it up. Well, really, I guess that, you know, it's no, because I was tempted to look it up. The Wilhelm scream. Who was it that first recorded it, and when was it invented? And anyway, it doesn't matter. I'm not gonna attempt it again. I don't do a very good Wilhelm scream. Never mind. Still, imagine how messed up John feels when he realizes that right next to Dick Follard's lifeless body, there she is, Ygritte. It's not clear whether it's her who shot Dick, but for a fraction of a second he actually notches another arrow, as if he really was as cold and ruthless as to actually be able to fire an arrow at Ygritte. You're not fooling anyone, Jon. And then, but in a microsecond, she's gone. And he goes, oh, shoot. Not literally. Oh, damn. Gosh darn it. Gee whiz. She's gone. Because if I still had a clear shot, I'm telling you, I would have, oh, yes, I would have fired a shot right at her throat. I had her. No, Jon, you're not fooling anyone. So yeah, and the stables are also on fire now, and the invaders are just about everywhere. Yeah, and the Western movie vibe is still there, because I have heard other commentators making the comparison with this chapter and the film Rio Bravo. The ragtag band forced to cooperate to stave off an invading army. Okay, confession time. I never actually watched Rio Bravo. Okay. And I'm not John Wayne's #1 fan. There, I said it. Okay, no, but I did see the Lose remake or adaptation by John Carpenter. District 13. No, wait, no, District 13. No. If you look that up, actually, what you get is the French movie. That French movie with a lot of parkour in it, Banlieue 13. I told you, I'm all about French today. No, it's not District 13. It's I think it's called Assault on District 13. No, Assault on Precinct 13. That's it. Which is kind of like a Rio Bravo thing, which was a great movie. Just stay away from the 2005 remake. Didn't really go for that. Now there's a lot of emphasis on this stack of bags, crates and barrels and stuff, sort of shaped like a crescent around the gate. We keep focusing on that, what's going to happen there. Because the wildlings are now crowding around it. And also because it will be important later. And if you made it to the end of this chapter, But for now, Jon and Satin are just happy that with all that crowd of free folk underneath the tower, it's so much easier to shoot them down one by one, which they do. But just as they're about to compliment each other on taking down a guy as a team effort, with 2 arrows, they realize that, oh shit, there's more wildlings right at the door. They've actually smashed the door and they didn't even hear them. And they're not, they're not deaf, unlike the late Dick Follard. But, they literally smashed the trap door. So Jon has to draw Longclaw, the Valyrian steel sword Lord Commander Mormont gave him. And he sticks a guy right in the skull. And then, because bronze is no match for Valyrian steel, we read here in this same paragraph. And then Satin shoots another right in the cheek. But yeah, there's literally far too many behind those two. So what do they do? Jon and Satin, they grab the kettle. I told you it was going to make an important appearance, this kettle. And they pour down all its content, which is boiling oil, on the Then's heads. Ouch! Yeah, okay, yeah. That's the guys below don't exactly go ouch. In fact, they let out a scream that's like the worst thing Jon has ever heard. So they shut the trapdoor immediately, out of sight, out of mind. Satin looks like he's going to throw up, But there's no time for that. And in the meantime, the situation on the ground has changed altogether. Moles and Black Brothers are there, standing on top of those barricades, which I guess must be pretty solid, considering that there's a watchman there called Easy. Nobody knows what earned him that nickname. And he's hopping from one crate to the next, spinning and slashing at the wildlings below him with his sword. He's Errol Flynn, cackling like crazy. Catch me if you can, until somebody buries an axe in his knees, and then he stops laughing in the typically anticlimactic end of a scene typically for George R. R. Martin. Another watchman called Rast gets a spear in his belly. No big loss, because that guy never cared for Jon, Always viewed him as a turncloak, a traitor, so no. Jon is probably not going to miss him. A couple more casualties. What we got there? Old Henley, young Henley. Some Dornish guy called Dilly. Oh, hi, Dilly. Oh, but it's gone. Must have been picked on. This Dilly must have been picked on at school, Kind of a name. All right, a setting saves the day as far as some guy called Kegs is concerned, because he fires a shot at the wildling who was trying to split Kegs in halves. But the problem is that the gate is lost, The one thing separating free folk from the Seven Kingdoms, and is lost. Okay, sure. I mean, it's chained, locked, and everything. But if the wildlings get hold of it, it won't take them long to pry it open, and then everything north of the wall can swarm into the rest of Westeros, the Resteros, which kind of defies the point of building a 700-foot wall in the first place. All right. So at this point, the best course of action seems to be praying. Hey, Satin, which gods do you pray to? A line right out of Conan the Barbarian, isn't it? Why, I will have you know that being from Old Town, my religion is the true one, the faith of the seven. That's, in fact, where I draw my strength, and, okay, good. You pray to your gods, I pray to mine, and then, we'll, regroup later, I suppose. And suddenly, after watchmen and moles abandon the barricades, the battle shifts onto the steps, the creaky steps, winding along the wall, leading all the way to the top. And remember, Donald Noy has placed some crossbowmen on the lowest landings, but even these guys are now fleed upwards, which reminds Jon of something else Ned told him. A man is never so vulnerable in battle as when he flees. A running man is like a wounded animal to a soldier. He gets his bloodlust up. A running man, that's kind of like Arnold Schwarzenegger, isn't it? Like in that adaptation from a novel by quote-unquote Richard Bachman. Anyway, all the while, the fire is expanding and it's making the wall weep. Because let's not forget, the damn thing is made of ice. So no, it does not look good. But Jon and Satin light their torches for a new tactic that will become clear, immediately. And that's when Jon finally sees him. Dun dun dun. Stir the Magnar in all his psychopathic glory, climbing over the barricades, looking every inch the leader. His bronze. I want to read you another quote here. His bronze scale armor gleaming darkly in the firelight. He has just taken off his helm to survey the scene of his triumph, and he's actually smiling. The villainous smile. In his hand, he has a long weirwood spear with an ornate bronze head. And he uses that spear to point at the gate. Obviously, that's their target now. The target they want to capture. They want to capture the gate and hold it. It's the key to the Seven Kingdoms for all their mates still, up north. But twist! There was a plan all along, which kicks off with the sound of a horn being blown, up there on the 9th landing, where Donald Noy is standing there on the north on the 9th landing up top. And at that point, everyone who's got an arrow fires it at the wooden stairs. Here, let me read you the quote. Or more precisely, not the stairs, but more precisely, the casks and kegs and sacks that Donald Noy had piled beneath the steps as high as the first landing. The barrels of lard and lamp oil, the bags of leaves and oily rags, the split logs, bark, and wood shavings. Yep, all that material has one thing in common. It's highly flammable. Even the old wooden steps have been drenched in oil, up to the 9th landing and all. And well, John can only hope that the good guys have managed to stagger up to safety before Noy threw the torches, because, the Black Brothers at least had been informed of this plan of setting the stairs on fire, but the villagers had no idea. Oh, Donald, tut, why? Why did you not, did you keep the moles out of the loop? Anyway, the goal is accomplished, because right now the free folk have been lured into the trap. They've got flames above them, flames below them. Imagine this. And they're right in the middle, nowhere to go. Barbecue. Yeah. At which point the whole lower third of the stairs comes down, along with several tons of ice. The wall does indeed defend itself. So this is how the Watch wins this temporary victory, but Jon is mainly interested in finding out what happened to what happened to Ygritte, hoping that she might have, who knows, escaped, maybe. Some of the free folk did escape. Jon saw it with his own eyes, so why shouldn't Ygritte have been one of them? So listen how George R. R. Martin uses the character Satin for emphasis. In the same paragraph, he gives us all the info we have about this guy twice. Listen to this. First he goes, "Bring the torch," he told of the boy from Old Town. "I need to look for someone." And then, a few lines down, he goes, "And Jon wandered through the dark with his crutch under one arm, and the other around the shoulders of a boy who'd been a whore in Old Town." And okay, I do know that when you extrapolate passages like these, out of context, they might be mocked as bad writing, right? Kind of like, which I don't think it is in this context, But, it's sort of like, because it reminds me of what stand-up comedian Stuart Lee I did some time ago, back in the days when Stuart Lee used to be funny. I just said that. Somebody slapped my wrist. Sorry. Anyway, so famously, Stuart Lee criticized Dan Brown's writing style by saying, I don't remember the exact quote, but he said, Dan Brown, he's selling books by the truckload, even though his novels are filled with sentences like, "The famous man looked at the red cup." Look it up if you don't know the act. Just Google or indeed Start Page or indeed Alta Vista. Type that sentence in your search engine of choice. "The famous man looked at the red cup," which, by the way, he completely made up, because Dan Brown never actually wrote that sentence in any of his books. But he used it for comedic effect. Stuart Lee used that line for comedic effect, because later in the show, his producer Armando Iannucci calls Stuart Lee over in his office, and this scene is still part of the show, and he scolds him. He goes, "Oh no, you know what, mate? You shouldn't have taken that cheap shot at Dan Brown. We've actually received a complaint from the writer himself." "Really?" "Yeah, really. Shall I read it to you?" Yeah, he's got a piece of paper on his desk, and he goes, "So here, the complaint reads, the funny man made the famous writer sad." Ha ha ha. Okay, so anyway, where was I? Okay, so yeah. So even sentences like that, you've got to read them in their context. Of course they're bound to sound like bad writing, right, if you decontextualize them. But look, there's room for this type of descriptions even in good writing, as George R. R. Martin has just demonstrated, for emphasis, for kids. Now, seriously, case in point, In this particular passage, we need the emphasis because really what the sentences leads us to is a very poignant moment where Jon finally does see Ygritte. So read it like, and so it was that Jon Snow, aided by a boy named Satin, who had once been a brothel worker in Old Town, saw the woman he loved in the last few moments of her life. See what I mean? See what I mean? I already have a lump in my throat. And the lump is building up here because this is one of those scenes that, oh my God, you know what I mean? Right. In fact, I think I'm going to read you the entire... well, no, okay. The passages that I find significant. Here we go. He found Ygritte sprawled across a patch of old snow beneath the Lord Commander's tower with an arrow between her breasts. The ice crystal... it's just right through her heart. But somehow she has a, you know, the trope, a few minutes for her last speech. The ice crystals had settled over her face. Oh no, look at that scene. I think they did that in the TV series. And in the moonlight, it looked as though she wore a glittering silver mask. The arrow was black, Jon saw, but it was fletched with white duck feathers. So not grey, not mine, he told himself. Not one of mine, but he felt as if it were. And when he knelt in the snow beside her, her eyes opened. "Jon Snow," she said, very softly. Okay, I didn't do a very good reading. "Jon Snow." Yeah, because she said it softly, okay? There's not a single dry eye in the house right now. It sounded as though the arrow had found a lung. Okay, not the heart, a lung, okay. Is this a proper castle now? Not just a tower? Because you know that every time I see a tower... there's an opportunity for you, Jon Snow, to tell me, oh, you know nothing. Ygritte, you know nothing. That's just a tower. Oh, you will see castles are like way bigger than that. And and right now she's referring to Castle Black. So, but you know, I don't know about you, but I wouldn't have the heart to tell her, no, you still haven't seen a castle. This is Castle Black. We call it castle as a joke. Okay, no. He said, yes, it is. Yeah, that's right. This is, as you can see, a proper castle indeed. And she goes, good. She whispered, I wanted to see one proper castle before I... Oh, no, don't say that word. Don't say the D word. You'll see 100 castles, he promised her. The battle's done. Maester Aemon will see to you. He touched her hair. Because you're kissed by fire. Remember, you've got, the red hair, you're ginger, lucky. You're lucky, kissed by fire. It would take more than an arrow to kill you. Aemon will draw it out, patch you up, and we'll get you some milk of the old puppy for the pain and... God, this is not an easy read. I'm sorry, guys. Yes. Even Salsa Doom can get emotional. And she just smiled at that. Do you remember that cave? Oh, no. Come on, George. Oh, no. Now you're bringing up the cave? Oh, come on. Like as if we weren't already like in tears. And now you have to bring up the cave. Seriously, that bloody cave. Okay. But anyway, yeah, I promised I'd read you out the quote, so here I go. Do you remember that cave, Jon? That's her speaking. We should have stayed in that cave. I told you so. Yeah, no, we'll go back to the cave, he said. You're not going to die, Ygritte. You're not. Oh, and Ygritte cupped his cheek with her hand. You know nothing, Jon Snow. And he sighed, dying. And, okay, I'll give you a couple of seconds to recover. Yeah? We're still here? Good. Because, okay, a lot has been made by other commentators of this, you know, like, this, you know nothing, is a catchphrase that, okay, we will hear for the first... read for the last time, which, you know, I'm not even sure about, because we might read it again as a flashback in Jon's memory. I don't remember. But anyway, the point of these commentators was, and it was always told, it's always the same sentence, but it's never with the same meaning, because it's so throughout the series, throughout Storm of Swords, it's told, mockingly, "Oh, you southerner, you south of the wall guy, you're clueless, your knowledge of general things, general is very limited indeed, etc., etc." Okay, so but now it is like an extreme salute, a poignant and tear-jerking goodbye. So it's the very same sentence, but it's used. It's got a very different meaning every time, especially this last time. This is their take on the last time Ygritte utters that catchphrase of hers. But if I may, I would like to give my my final my own personal take, because you know how I think if you take it literally, it does mean that your knowledge is very poor indeed, Jon Snow. But I don't think that's what it means. Now, if you go back and reread every single instance of Ygritte saying, "You know nothing, Jon Snow," you will find, and it takes a nerdy sociolinguist, like cultural linguist, philologist, whatever, systemic functional grammar freak like me to notice these things, or to come up with these theories. I don't think you should take it literally. It's an idiom. And idioms, like as such, do not mean what they say. It's like like in that episode of Star Trek, someone says, "We will be burning the midnight oil," and Spock goes, "Oh, I hardly think that burning highly flammable combustible would be the correct course of action, especially in view of health and safety regulations." But no, it's just an idiom. We're not actually going to burn oil. Okay, so being an idiom, "You know nothing, Jon Snow," does not mean, if you reread every single instance of Ygritte saying "you know nothing," you will find that the meaning may well be, "I wish you were right." That's what it means. If look at every single instance, Jon goes, "Oh, we've just scaled the wall. The worst is behind us." Sure enough, "You know nothing, Jon Snow." The giants are not going to go extinct. There's still hundreds of them. "You know nothing, Jon Snow." And look at every single instance. That's what I think it means. That's what I think it means. In her own lingo, her own, what do you call it? Code. And sure enough, on this very last occasion, you're not gonna die. We're gonna patch you right up. You're gonna be up and about in no time at all. And then you're going to embark on a grand tour and visit 1, 10, nay, hundreds of castles. And at that point, I wish you were right. As in, you know nothing, Jon Snow. There. And with this theory of mine, I leave you. Wow. You made it this far with me, dear listener. For one thing, I can only admire your dedication to this to this series of rambling commentaries. Well, thank you for listening. If you enjoy this kind of content, feel free to do all of the things that people do under such circumstances, and or not. Either way, I thank you for keeping me company, and I look forward to talking to you again soon again in the next POV chapter, which is a brand POV chapter. So we stay in this roughly in this geographic location, and I'm looking forward to talking to you again In the meantime, have a great day/night ahead. Ciao.